Okay, guys, I just got back from watching the Japan versus Sweden World Cup soccer game. And I have some quick questions from Yasu I want to answer. So, first of all, just like what did I think of the game? How was it? That kind of stuff. I really enjoyed watching it. Obviously, I grew up playing soccer, so I enjoy watching it. The game itself was actually really fun. I do wish that Japan could have won. They had that they were so close. I think that is just so emblematic of like how good both teams are. Like it was a really close game. Each team had so many good moves and like it was just fun to watch. It's such a good matchup. That was how I felt with the Netherlands versus Japan game as well, which they also tied. It was just like so much back and forth and like great saves, great plays, great shots. So yeah, I just really enjoy watching that and watching soccer, especially since I don't play anymore. It's kind of like fun to kind of like relive it and remember. So, yeah, I really enjoyed watching that game. Again, I do wish that Japan could have hung on to that lead, but either way, they will go on to the next stage. And I believe they're playing Brazil next, which is also going to be a really fun game to watch. Brazil, I think that they will have the edge on Japan just a little bit, but Japan has been so strong recently. Like their players have been so good. So you know what? It could go either way. I think that like a knockout game is always really fun to watch, especially now that we have the possibility of like overtime and penalty kicks and all that kind of stuff. I think the matches are just gonna be really good, and I really hope that Japan can make it through past this Brazil game. All right, and then the next question is who was my favorite soccer player at this match, or like who stood out? And on the Japan team, I mean, like, I feel like Ito does really well every single time. He is such a strong player, and obviously, like, playing on the more offensive side, he gets a lot of the attention just because he is in those like goal scoring moments and he's like taking those corner kicks and that kind of stuff. So he's always so fun to watch. And like, obviously, he's a very well established player and he represents the Japanese team really well. So he is definitely one of my favorites on the Japan team. I also think Taniguchi, I don't know if I'm saying that correct. I'm so sorry. That's just how the announcers were saying it. But I think he did really, really well this game. I think that defenders don't get a lot of praise. They don't get a lot of attention because, again, they're not on like the flashier goal scoring side of the matches a lot of times. I think having a really strong defense is kind of what's going to set the foundation for any team. So yeah, he really stood out to me this round. I also like, even though he is a defensive player, like I saw him on the offensive side of things a lot, which I think is really cool like that. So I was just really impressed by his kind of like ability to be everywhere at once and his like how well he supported his teammates. So that one, he's a really fun player to watch and I really enjoyed. Okay, and then next question is who is my favorite soccer player overall? And honestly, like I don't follow soccer players individually like that closely, especially in like men's soccer. But like definitely some big names stand out. I remember last World Cup, like Argentina won, and supposedly that was Messi's last World Cup, but obviously he's back this year. So that was really, really fun to watch. We thought that would be the end of his career, and like, you know, what a way to go. That was so amazing. But obviously he's back this year and he's continuing to set records, even though he is on the older side. My friend Lola and I were actually talking about this today, but Holland, he's on the Norwegian team, and she doesn't follow soccer that closely, but she's been seeing all the memes about like him just because he's like this really big guy and he's like hunched over with this posture. It's like, oh my god, imagine him charging at you because he is fast. So it's like really scary, obviously. So I just think that's really funny. I feel like I follow teams more closely than I do individual players just because in the US, like I'm more focused on the MLS league, and then when it transitions to an international stage, I feel like I haven't caught up with a lot of players, like their individual journeys, especially if they're not US based. So I don't really know like where they're coming from, which like local team they're supporting, or like what their stats are. I will say maybe a hot take, but I don't love the French team. Like, I feel like they dominate every year, but like I don't love the French team, and I feel like Mbappe is like the most well-known player there. So like, I don't know. I just have beef with him just because I think it's like fun to root for teams, but it's also fun to root against teams. So sorry, France, but that was my personal choice for this World Cup. But yeah, honestly, like all the players, they're at this international level. They're obviously going to be good. I think on each team you have a few names that stand out, but holistically, I think each player is crucial to how the game is played and how each team functions. So I can't like confidently say I have a favorite player necessarily. But yeah, they're just all really fun to watch. All right, and then last question is, who do I think is going to win the World Cup and why? Obviously a very loaded question. We are still in the group stage, so it's honestly really hard to tell. I have hope for Japan. They've been really, really strong. They always do have a good team, and I think this year they've been holding their own against these like historically great teams like Sweden and Netherlands. So I have hope for them. I don't think that they're going to win just because like you have these teams that are coming in again and again who are just so strong and like cultivate the best of the best. So I'm not like completely sure. I think like obviously you have to keep your eye on like Argentina, Brazil, France, those guys. And then we'll really just see how it goes. I would love to say that maybe the US could win the World Cup, but like honestly, our men's team is never that good. I think that they have this pattern of doing really well in the group stage, and then like when it gets to knockout, you know, like they stumble a little bit, and we haven't won a World Cup in a long, long time. The women's team, on the other hand, I'm plugging you guys all for women's US soccer, so please watch because they're amazing. They're amazing players, but we do really strong over there, and I think that they just don't get as much love because they're female soccer players. But yeah, we've won so many World Cups on the women's side. I don't know if that's going to change this year. I mean, obviously, fingers crossed, I'm going to root for them. But, I mean, we'll see how far they make it in the knockout stage. I sound so pessimistic for saying that, but I think it's just the truth. I think that those other teams I mentioned do just have, like, stronger foundations, and they're just, like, you know, they have a better shot at it. Yeah, I think that like this next team up between Japan and Brazil is really going to shape my answer on like who I think is going to win the World Cup. And I think really like kind of get a feel for, you know, like which teams are stronger. I think in the group stage, it can be really hard to judge like which teams internationally are showing up and like have really strong players and like a team dynamic, just because the group stage is so hit or miss on who you get paired with. Like, if you're a really good team and you get paired with three like more like B-tier teams, then obviously you're going to look really good and you're going to look really strong. But in reality, like you might not be at like the level that you appear at just because those other teams were not much of a competition. But like Japan, for example, they got paired with some really strong teams, Sweden and the Netherlands, and they tied against those. And like I think that like as the knockout round progresses, I'll have a more confident answer, but as of now, I really don't know who would win the World Cup.
実践的な英会話を短期間で効率よく身につけたい方は、いろんなアメリカ人の生の英会話を学ぶのが一番です。英会話教材 This is 英会話では、アメリカ人約150人の生の英会話を紹介しています。概要欄に紹介していますので、ぜひ見てください。それでは次回をお楽しみに。